Fast food workers have been continuing to walk off their jobs in protest of low wages. Now, the goal of these protests is to double the minimum wage, which is $7.25 an hour, to around $15 an hour. Now, of course, conservative heads are exploding, and industry spokesmen are coming up with the usual arguments against raising the minimum wage, such as, oh my God, it's going to hurt our business. Oh my God, there's nowhere, we definitely cannot afford to pay our workers $15 an hour, except that there's a place where they do pay their workers $15 an hour, but I'll get to that later. Now, of course, some of the other arguments that these industry spokesmen and conservatives like to use is that, well, what about the young people? You're going to hurt the young people. They're not going to be able to get jobs. Because you know who works at McDonald's? It's the teenagers. You're going to hurt the teenagers. They're just working at McDonald's so they can get some extra money to save up for a car. Or there are college students that are trying to pay their way through college. And some of them are. But a recent report by the Center of Economic and Policy Research finds that a majority of fast food workers are not teenagers looking for some extra money or saving up for a car. Now, in fact, this report finds that people aged 25 to 54 hold the largest share of fast food workers' jobs in America. Definitely not what the industry people are saying. Now, some more facts. 11% of workers earning $7.25 an hour or less are older than 20. But a staggering 68% of workers earn between $7 to $10 an hour. Now remember, there is no place in America where you can rent a 2-bedroom apartment for a minimum wage salary. Not only that, but look at how many people are earning such a little amount of money. These are people that have mortgages. These are people that have kids, families. These are people that have to have 2 jobs to survive. Now remember that hilarious McDonald's budget that they came out with recently when they partnered up with Visa? Now remember, that budget had a slot for a second job. Just think about that for a minute. They're essentially admitting that, yeah, you can't live on a McDonald's budget. But a majority of people are trying to. And so that's why they're out in the streets protesting to raise the minimum wage. Now, another report from economists at the Royal Bank of Scotland said that roughly half the jobs created in the United States over the last 3 years were low-paying jobs. Now, this explains why there are so many older people that are working these McJobs, okay? So you've got so many people that used to have middle-class jobs, good-paying middle-class jobs, now have to survive on 2 or 3 low-paying McJobs. And that, of course, pushes out the young people. And let me give you some stats on that. The unemployment rate for people that are 16 to 19 years old is at a whopping 22.5%. And that's, of course, because older people needing jobs have pushed them out of the market. It is not the minimum wage that pushed them out of the market. It's the fact that there are very few, a very shrinking amount of good middle-class jobs. And that's, of course, a result of the recession. Now, another study from the National Employment Law Project found that 3/5 of the jobs created since the recession have been these low-paying jobs. That roughly matches the number of middle-income jobs that were lost. Now, so I talked about a place that actually does pay their workers the minimum wage of $15 an hour. Well, it's not quite $15 an hour. It's $14.50, and it's in Australia. Now, there are trade-offs, of course, to raising the minimum wage. You have a few less workers. Yes, it's going to happen, right? These displaced workers of course, would be able to find other jobs because there would be increased consumer spending. The idea is simple. You give more people money in their pockets, they're going to spend that. They're going to spend that money, and that's going to fuel job creation. So any people displaced by this right now, there will be jobs waiting for them in the future as consumer spending picks up. I mean, that's economics. Now, not only that, but another thing is that, yes, it probably would raise the price of a Big Mac. Well, how much? Now, there's been a couple of studies. One has been debunked that said that it would cost an extra 68 cents. That's a BS study. They, admitted to that. Another study said that if we raised the minimum wage here in America to $15 an hour, it actually would add about $1 to the price of a Big Mac. So if you're willing to pay an extra $1 to make sure that somebody has a better life, I know I would. Now back to Australia. Now, another argument that conservatives make, of course, that I mentioned earlier is that, well, yeah, but you're going to push the young people out of the market. Well, the Australians have actually came up with a system to help with that. Under law, Australians can pay their workers, their teenage workers, about $8 an hour, which is still over the federal minimum wage here in America. So they can get away with paying their teenage workers a little bit, or I should say a lot less. And that helps with their teen unemployment. So I think that's more of a fair system. Now, of course, people in Australia, the teens in Australia happen to be a major part of the fast food workforce. And so I'm not sure if that's a solution that would work well in America under the present circumstances, but I do like that system. And I would like to see something implemented here if we do get to raise the minimum wage, because that would solve a couple of those problems. So another argument that conservatives like to make is that it would increase regular unemployment. Well, let's look again at Australia. Now we've got a unemployment rate around 7.5%, 7.6. The unemployment rate in Australia is only about 5.7%, and their economy is actually doing really well. So if you look at, if you compare the United States and Australia and economically at how they're doing, Australia pulls out ahead because it has a higher minimum wage, which means they actually pay their workers well, and that kind of feeds into that cycle of you put money into people's pockets, they're going to spend it, and that helps the overall economy. The opposite of what America does is that we continue to put more money into rich people's pockets that are not going to spend it. They're going to hoard it because they don't have anything really to spend it on, while lower class and middle class people barely scrape by. So we're doing something wrong here in America, and maybe we should think about looking at other systems, looking at other countries that do work, so that we can get our economy back on track. Just something to think about.